Bună seara! E pornit, da? Mulțumesc! Bună seara! Numele meu e Cătălin Constantin, unii ne știm. Sunt coordonatorul acestor conferințe de joi. Se cheamă conferințele de joi pentru că, evident, au loc joia, în fiecare săptămână, aici, la Palatul Suțu, și misiunea lor e să transforme acest loc într-un loc de întâlnire, într-un loc de discuție și piața universității să devină o agora. Și tocmai de asta invitata din această seară vine din Grecia. Christina Matiaki este istoric de artă, bizantinolog și ne propune în această seară, în limba engleză, o conferință cu o temă foarte interesantă, despre care, evident, o să o las pe ea să povestească. Vreau doar să vă anunț temele conferințelor viitoare, așa ca într-un fel de promo, cu speranța că în felul acesta o să vă văd și joia viitoare și peste 2 săptămâni și în iunie. După iunie luăm o scurtă vacanță și ne vom reîntâlni ca de obicei în septembrie, pentru că în acest moment conferințele numără deja 5 ani. Data viitoare vom avea o conferință de educație vizuală. Domnul Adrian Kunst, conferențiar universitar la Facultatea de Arte, ne va învăța să citim vizualul și să facem diverse lucruri foarte utile, pe care credem că știm să le facem, PPT-uri, afișe și așa mai departe, și de fapt nu știm să le facem. Apoi vom avea 2 întâlniri dedicate a românilor cu Lila Pasima și un proiect care a colindat prin Balcani numit Cu Tenda. Ultima conferință din iunie este despre antropologia mediului și gata, cred că am vorbit destul pentru că important e să o auziți pe Christina. Christina, you have more or less 1 hour and of course after that questions and answers. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. I don't know if I am feeling a little bit, with microphone it's a little bit strange, but I will try to get used to it. They say that a good prayer and a good speech must have 3 important components. The one is thank you, the second is forgiveness, and the third, always to ask for something. So I will begin with the most important, which of course is the thank you. I want to thank Mr. Cătălin Constantin, for the invitation, the university. I want to thank, of course, the museum and the Greek Foundation for the hospitality. And last but not least, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to ask forgiveness from the beginning because I am sure that I am going to make many mistakes, mostly because the English language is a language that I have a fluency, but unfortunately, many times I am making many mistakes. And of course, I will ask for your forgiveness because I am, how can I say, I have a very big default. Sometimes I forget myself and I talk too much. And the last one is I want to make a request. The request is, please, if you can lower the volume of your cellular phones, because for one moment it is good to be outside the world and all the responsibilities and everything that is happening outside, just to get to know each other even more better. To start anyway, I'm not seeing the screen. To start with this conference, I want to say that it's not exactly a conference this time. It's, in a way, it is a picking up. You know, a picking up is when I am coming to you and I'm trying to do something like this. Trying to wake you up for something, trying to trouble you, trying to put some questions, trying to rethink together some things. The title, and I don't know if you see all the screen, the title of today's conference is Art and the Service of Art in Religion and the Liturgical Arts. Unfortunately, 1 hour is a very small period of time to cover all these great subjects. I will try to be as brief as I can, but unfortunately you are so unlucky because these are the three most loving subjects for me. So I will begin by saying that to find out a little bit what we are going to talk about, I want us to see these terms separately and what exactly mean. And you know, it's not so easy because sometimes we are saying, oh, but art is something really simple. We can describe art, we can say what is art. But I want to ask you, for example, can someone of you say a small word or a term or a sentence what he believes that it is art?
Personal interpretation of the world.
So nice. So it is an interpretation. We keep the most important word. Someone else? Someone else? It's really nice, and I thank Iliana. I thank Iliana for making this addition, but not to torture you no more. This is the term as it is given at the Oxford English Dictionary at 2019. I will not go inside all the other things that it says, but I will only underline three aspects of art. Art is, as you see, is an expression, is also a work, it's an object, and third, it's an activity. At the same time, so when we say about art, we are saying about the intention, the desire of someone to create something. We are saying about his activity of trying to create something, and also we say about the final product of this intention, that it is an object. I want to tell you that I gave you this term and I write it like this exactly as it is given in the dictionary, because the Oxford English Dictionary is one of the oldest dictionaries in the world. And I can reassure you, unfortunately, I didn't want to tire you with more terms, is that at the beginning of the Oxford Dictionary, art wasn't as it is described here. Because art, from the beginning of humanity, in a way, it became something different. It wasn't the same. For example, if we go back at ancient Greece, if we go back at Egypt, if we go maybe closer to us at the Roman Empire, at the Renaissance, an artist wasn't exactly an artist as we consider him today. He was more a technician. And I now will start do the very unpleasant thing of referring all the time to the Greek terms. Because in art in Greece is called techni. Techni is something really, as we can connect it in our mind, it's something technical. But this technical thing nowadays is not about describing a technician. An artist is something really above this thing. But this term started to changing only at Renaissance. And of course, we will see some examples that we have some creations that were made by very famous people that in their time, they had the respect of the people and of the community. But unfortunately, still they weren't considered artists. We have here one of the first and distinctive creations, artistic creations, that of course it wasn't an artistic creation at that time. You can imagine it is at France's, the Sauvet Cave, and we have a depiction. Can you understand what it is? It is animals, lions, and hunting. In a way, it is the need of humanity from the beginning, after surpassing the need for survival, to express itself about what am I doing in everyday life? And I want to ask, but okay, you are hunting and killing lions and cows and horses and I don't know what else, but why you want to pass this knowledge to us in the future? Why you want to make this everyday life, this activity and this movement, in a way have an existence in eternity if it can be saved? Because most of the times, unfortunately, many objects cannot be saved because of the materiality of the object. But it is something that we must consider why someone wanted to give us this thing. And connect it with today. I don't know if you know Marina Abramovic, but Marina Abramovic is one of the most important ladies of perform art. In a way, what happened at Soviet Cave is really, really connected with what Marina Abramovic is doing today. Both of these two art objects, if we can call them objects, and you see, and going back again to the term of art, now we have a type of art that isn't exactly an object, and it cannot be preserved in a way inside time. It is happening in a moment, and it passes. It cannot be recreated with the same intensity and with the same example. So we are thinking, what is connecting these two kinds of art, these two types of art? And from the beginning, is the intention of the person inside the caves a different intention of a person at 2019? Because many times we are thinking, in the past the people were more stupid. I don't know why we have this thinking. Because there wasn't the technological evolution, we tend to believe that people didn't have the same way and the same system of thinking as us. In a way, there is a truth inside the sentence, but it's not exactly like this. They had different kind of criteria of understanding, of how they understand the world around them. Because, of course, we have traveled to the universe and we have seen Earth and its shape and how is cosmos, but still we are just at the beginning. And we are just in the beginning, and very recently I read something. They said that, unfortunately, someone surpassed the theory of the opening and closing of the universe. They said, no, now that we made more studies, it's not happening exactly this way. So the question is, what we are doing today and what we did yesterday is something that it's meant to be surpassed. In a way, we are already obsolete. And this is a very, very important component of life. If we don't surpass, if we don't reject what happened at the past and move forward to the future, we are staying in a state that it's more dead than it is alive. But always it has a connection with the past. So, going back to Greek again, the science of studying all these things about art, about beauty, and it's really funny, it's called the science aesthetics. Aesthetics, again, is coming from a Greek word that it's aesthesis. Aesthesis is everything that I feel, the sensation. So, aesthánome, I feel, I understand, becomes a science that it's called aesthetics. It's very, very strange because, again, science, it is surpassed, even though we don't have a more newer term like the one that I'm giving you here. Because you see, it says the subdiscipline, a department of philosophy concerned with the nature and expression of beauty and the fine arts. Beautiful and sublime. Sublime is something that it's above us, really away from us, over us, and everything. But I want to say something. This is not true. Because in art, and not only now, what about the ridiculous, the ugly, the awful? Something that it is so hideous, but in a way, it was used and is still being used. I give you this example of a gargoyle at Notre Dame, and I'll give you, of course, an example of Jean Dubuffet. I don't know if you know this artist. He's one of the main representative of Art Brut. Art Brut is, as the word says, it's a very wild and a very ugly art. But there is a reason for this art. And you know, I gave you this example because Jean Dubuffet also had a very great sense of humor. And we see a person, and his title is The Teddy Bear. And you have to look, where is the teddy bear? You see the face of the teddy bear? The eyes and the mouth with the nose, as the small children are doing. So, Of course, there is an intention, and there is of course a very, very deep point inside this ugliness and this inside this awfulness. And I want to say something, that this ugliness and this awfulness, even though we have this negative feeling about these hideous, very intensive pictures, we are going back to Romanticism. And you know, in a way, I am trying again to pick your mind and ask what we think that Romanticism is. Because we are making connections in our mind and we are putting them in a basis, a steady basis, that we say, we know this thing and this thing is like this. But Romanticism, as the pictures and the examples we saw before about the awful and the ugliness, Romanticism wanted to do something. It wanted to provoke. You see, too, one of the most important painters of Romanticism, which of course it's Theodore Géricault, and we have also Turner, that both of them, of course, they see a different side of Romanticism. The one, I don't know if you know this painting, which of course is very, very popular and very, very famous. It is the Raft of Medusa. To be exact, is the wreckage of Medusa. A big ship is being sunk in the sea, and many people are left to die in a very small raft, I think 150 of them. And of course, this raft is very, very small, and they are for many days on top of this raft. And there are happening events of cannibalism. They are eating each other. I don't know if you can see the dead bodies on the edges, trying to wave a small piece of cloth to a ship that is coming away, but we cannot see the ship. There is the despair, there is this eerie atmosphere, like everybody is dead, like they are alive, but their colors and all the atmosphere, it's not so pleasant. It's not so beautiful, but it is art, and it is great art. The same, of course, is the atmosphere in Turner. And you see, it's not a peaceful, a romantic as we think, a scenery. It is a ship inside the sea that the wind is keep taking the ship, and it's ready again to sink with black and gray colors. This is not a romantic painting, but this is what Romanticism wanted to do. I am making this reference to Romanticism because there is a very great connection with Byzantine art. And in a way, Byzantine art is a romantic art because the main elements of Romanticism is to provoke the senses, to provoke emotions, to provoke an intensity, a lyricism. And this intensity, even though it seems still, even though it is hidden underneath, there is this intensity under the surface. Going now to the purpose of art, because as I told you before, why doing? What is the intention? Nowadays, there is this discrimination between the purposes of art. The one is that art for art. I want to do something, I want to express myself as an individual person, my ideas, what I am feeling, my experiences in life, and I want to create something. I put a question mark because how free we are from our environment, how individual we are living, how away from everything and from the influences of the world around us is a person is really free to create and express himself in a way that he's over and above the reality and the society he can live, but he's a product of his society. Leaving this aside, there is of course more extinguished the socially engaged art. And I want to tell you this is a very, very difficult term because many people have tried to give a term to explain art that has a purpose. And this purpose is very, very specific and very, very clear from the beginning of this creation. For example, art that is being made for propaganda. And your country had lived this propaganda many years. But this art, this engaged art, this art that has a purpose, is also something that is concerning us, because Byzantine art is a socially engaged art, but I will leave socially aside. And I will say a small word that we will discuss again about it as we will proceed. I will say spirituality. And spirituality is spiritually engaged art, not exactly socially. But let's proceed. So, to be more exact, of course, all of you knows what are the types of expression. Anyway, what are the products we can make when we want to make art? There is architecture, there is sculpture, painting, there is poetry, music, dancing, and cinema as the seventh art. Of course, you can understand this is a very poor list, because nowadays we have countless forms of art. We had the movement of art and craft that put decorative art inside the map of arts. We have photography, that it's a very, very important also type of art, and many, many others that are not inside. From this type of art, I choose only one to be the example, and this is architecture, because unfortunately we don't have so much time. But I believe that architecture is one of the, if I can say, the most obvious arts to see certain things and have certain conclusions. Because architecture is our expression not only inside time, but also inside space. It covers a big part of our space, and it makes a statement. And this is really important because it influences really much from the environment, and many times the architects are trying not only to take in mind the trend of the time, but also to adjust the architectural production according to the environment that it's being made. Another element of architecture is that it can stand inside time. Architectural elements, architectural compositions are something that are witnessing more than any other kind of art inside this world about the time that was being built. I don't know if you know this complex of stones and what it is. It's stone heads. It's still there is a discussion of what kind of place Stonehenge is. The research has ended up maybe it's some kind of a sacred cemetery. Anyway, it is a sacred place, and someone can understand it from the first minute it sees this picture. Why putting all these stones on a circle with this formation, with this system? And I want to tell you, I don't know if you see the date. The date of Stonehenge that starts from 2000 BC, which of course it's a long time ago, it took, I think, more than 1,000 years to be prepared and ended. Because you can imagine doing this work with the means of this time. It was built part by part very slowly to create this picture that we see now. Going to Egypt and to Karnak, it is another sacred place that, of course, we see now the people, as soon as they are getting hold of the technology, as soon as they are finding out about the tools, they are becoming more sophisticated. And now, of course, maybe the intention is the same, but the sophistication is more obvious on the ways they are using to sculpture and prepare these sacred places. I couldn't miss to put something really important for me, which is, of course, Acropolis. And I didn't put it only because I come from Greece. I put it because Acropolis, Parthenon, and the thought of the 5th century is something really important for all Western world, they say, but in a way, it is a point of reference for all humanity. It was the point, as we saw in Karnak, everything is really huge and very, very humongous in a way, very impressive, but it's something very far away from the meters of human. Everything is very away from us. God is something really far away, but in ancient Greece, and at that time, something is happening inside the relation of humans and God. And is the distance that is changing. We are coming closer. And we are coming closer in a way because exactly our thinking is going deeper and deeper, and it creates philosophy. These buildings, and the most important building on Acropolis, I want to tell you because it is one of my favorite buildings that I have studied for many, many years, every small detail of this building. These buildings are not buildings, they are philosophy. And I want to tell you that, for example, in Parthenon was being constructed in many thousands of small pieces of marble of Pendeli that is really close to the hill of Acropolis. These small pieces, they were made in such a technological advance that it was a puzzle. A big marble puzzle. But when they connected these pieces on the top of the hill of Acropolis, I want to tell you that the accuracy of connection of these pieces is less than the quarter of a millimeter. You can imagine that having this technological knowledge, and I want to tell you, it's not about the technology, it's about the thought behind this puzzle. They created every unique small piece as a very complete part. And they put these parts in a dialogue, in a relation, that they didn't diminish the value of every piece, but the pieces together made a greater statement with more value. This was the thinking of the society of Athens. It wasn't about architecture. It's about having the thought, I am an entity, I am a unique entity, that I can exist as a perfect person, but I can coexist in a society, and yet again, I can be perfect inside this society. This was the birth of democracy. So this was not only the thinking, of course, of society, it was the thinking of our connection with God. And we are passing to times after Christ, because either we like it or not, Christ was a very important thing, I will say. Christ was a very important human. He is our God, anyway, my God. Maybe some of you have something else. But he was a very important point in the history of humanity. And someone must ask, okay, about the history, about everything. The argument is really easy. What is the year we have? Humanity chose to count its most valuable thing on this earth, which is time, by his appearance on earth. And this says something. So we are passing the time of Christ walking on this earth, and we are coming at the times that Christianity is recognized as the official religion of the Roman Empire, because it wasn't a Roman Empire by the time, and we have buildings that are created in a way. You see the similarities with Acropolis. They are buildings that has a roof with two sides, a very simple building that has, unfortunately, I couldn't find the correct translation for this word, δρομικότητα. Δρομικότητα means when a building has a nice way of length and it forces the eye to move towards its length. So you see, we are taking the thought, as we saw in Parthenon, and we are creating buildings in this way with a different mentality, because now some other things are added. Can you see what is the shape of the roof of St. Demetrius? It is a cross, of course, because something is centering. And something centering, it's not something simple, it's the symbolism of these buildings. The symbolism that existed in the past and is changing right now. This, of course, is an iconic building, and I put it in a way to show that we have the intention of a statement of the person that creates a thing. We have also the intention of the people interfering at the creation to change the statement. Of course, at some point, East and West is choosing to follow a little bit different way. And I want to say it's not about the division of things because, of course, there were the political reasons, of course, there were the reasons of power and everything, but we must consider that this difference was a difference that was existing anyway. It was a difference of the way we are living, the culture, the geographical place. And I want to tell you that the geographical place we are living is a very, very important thing for our life. Because in a way, it shapes our life. Imagine we are in a zone, you in Romania and we in Greece, it's about the same, that we have the summer and the spring, we have winter, so we have the seasons that are being shared in a way. So we can be cold, but normally cold, we can be hot, but normally hot. But we don't have the same circumstances in the other places of the world. An Eskimoan is not living like us, for example, or a person in the desert is not living like us. The needs are different, and because the needs are different, there is a different mentality that is being cultured inside this difference. And it's pretty logical, of course. So, coming to today, and of course because architectural production and the connection with this production with God kept troubling the artists and the architects. Of course, here you can see the Rosary Chapel by Henri Matisse. It's a chapel that was created by an artist of Fauvism. I don't know if you know what Fauvism means. It's the beast. It was the art of beasts. The creations were having intensity, vividness, life, all the energy that the youth had. And of course we see all these colors and this simplicity and the intensity that Matisse wanted to give to this chapel. Going further, just to give you another chapel, I don't know if you know Rothko as an artist. Rothko is and it's really funny because we say Rothko an abstract expressionist, but when he lived, he said, I am not an abstract expressionist. I am not belonging to any category. I am doing my works, and my works, you see on the walls, these blue big paintings. He named his work multiforms. He wanted to reach in the purity of the feelings and the senses. I want to put you something really simple and trying to find your emotion in it. Are you sad seeing this? Are you happy seeing this? Are you feeling fear seeing this? Are you feeling respect seeing this? And you see that it is an organized space that, of course, it creates this feeling of something sacred, of something of silence, of prayer, even though it doesn't have nothing. So, what about the Orthodox tradition? And what about the connection we need to find to keep going with our subject? This is a church that I had the opportunity of visiting last year. It is the Church of Anastasis at Tirana. It is the Cathedral Church of the Orthodox Church in Albania. It is something that was ended, I believe, yes, at 2014. It was, I don't know if you know the Anastasios, which is a very, very, how can I describe him? He's a very special personality. And they fulfilled this Orthodox cathedral with an aesthetic criteria that it's not matching to what we used to see until now. But even though it doesn't have this traditional criteria we have in mind, if we look closely to the building, we can see that it has all the basic and important elements of a Byzantine Orthodox church. It has, of course, a dominating cupola with the symbolism of the cross. It has the arches, which arches, of course, are inside the Byzantine and religious architecture. It has all the concern about the light. You can see how the windows are being organized. It even has a bell house. So sometimes we are rushing into conclusions and trying to judge things superficially because our vision and our senses is getting used to something else. Going back now to religion, and what is the connection with art? Why using art for every religion? Because we don't have only one religion, we have many. Of course, and you can, I don't know if you can recognize the symbols. This is the symbol for Christianity, of course. This is the symbol of? Exactly. This is the symbol of Muslims. This is a symbol of Taoism. And this is the symbol of Hinduism. Symbols are really, really important for us. A symbol is something that has a very wide range of translation. For example, a cross is a symbol, but what kind of symbol it is? It is a symbol of sacrifice, of torture. It is a symbol of death. It is a symbol of suffering. Why we are wearing crosses if it is a symbol of sacrifice and suffering and death? We are wearing this symbol because, going back to Greek again, what exactly the word symbol means. Συμβάλλω is the verb, syn, together, valo, towards something, I put, I connect. The symbols are the way and the mean is the path to go somewhere. It is, as we can say, it is something inside our pocket that can help us go deeper, go further into something. They are the help for us. So when we are seeing a symbol, we are understanding many things because we already know some things in our mind. And we are making this connection at the minute, not at a minute, but at a second. We are doing this connection. But for us, the cross, in this way, it becomes a symbol of love. But I want to go a little bit deeper to the symbols. We saw about the cross, and of course we will remain to the example of Christianity. Do you know this symbol with a fish? Of course. Do you know this symbol underneath the fish? It is, we will reveal the meaning of the symbols. And do you know what is the blessing hand of God? Because this is a symbol too. I want to say something. If we were to raise hands when we saw the cross, and I asked you, how many of you know the meaning of the symbol of the cross? Let's raise hands. How many of you know the symbol of the cross? I am pretty sure that everybody will raise the hand. It is just to make a counting, to show something. If I asked you, deeper than the symbol of the cross, they are symbols of Christianity, and I asked you who you know the symbol of the fish, in a way I think the number will be less. And when I asked you, do you know the symbolism of the blessing hand of God, who can raise the hand that he knows the symbolism of God? I see only 1, 2, 3, 4. But anyway, it's a smaller number than the first number we raised the hands. It is an experiment. Because by this I want to describe you what symbols are doing. They are like music. When we are going on a concert and we are not musicians, we can appreciate the nice music we are hearing. We can try to close our eyes and feel everything around us. It is creating an emotion and a sensation. If we know a little bit of music and go to a concert, we can start recognizing the small notes, and we can start, when we have a philharmonic orchestra, for example, we can start hear the trombone, we can start hear the cello, if we know some notes. But if we are musicians and we go to a concert, we can distinguish all the organs and all the notes, even find the mistakes, or even appreciate even more the melody. This is what is symbolism. And I put a very important word as the title of this symbolism: mystery. In religions, in all religions, and of course in Orthodox Christianity, in Christianity, we have the mysteries, we say, in church. How many are the mysteries? Do you know? 7 mysteries. Why they are mysteries? It's something we don't know, because it's a mystery in our mind is something that we don't know it, and it's left like something to be discovered. In a way, it has this essence. Mystery comes again from Greece, and it's from the verb mio. Mystis was the person that he was cultivated in a tradition. He was putting into learn and go deeper inside the meanings of what he believed. So mystery is not something unknown. It is again a path. It is an effort that I want to do, and I have the intention of doing it. First of all, symbolism is helping. Symbols are helping because they are revealing some things, but I need to want to learn what are the symbols and what is the depth in them. Of course, the circle and these lines were the acronym ichthys, which of course is Iisus Christos Theou Ios Sotir, Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. And the hand is the abbreviation we use from Jesus Christ, Iisus Christos. It's a iota, it's an I, it's a C, it's a he, an X, the fingers that are crossing, and again, we have a C. It's not such a secret symbolism, but in a way, again, it is showing the depth that we can go when we know and still make the struggle to know more and more. So, liturgical arts, in a way, it is a tool. Liturgic, sorry again for this, comes from Greece. It comes from the word liton, which is the place used by the people, laos, and the word ergo. Ergo means work, action. So liturgical means something that has, again, a double meaning. It's something for the people, but it's something for the people to do. So liturgical arts are something that are helping us in this path, in this struggle to reach, in this case, to reach God. Our God, the God of Christianity, of course, the main face, the main personality was Christ. And it's really, really interesting to see who was the first artist, who was the first to make an icon. Do you know who was the first to make an icon? Was Saint Luke? Veronica? Himself. This is the answer. Jesus Christ himself was the first painter. This is a depiction of an iconographic theme that's called the mandilion. The mandilio, it is a paper of cloth, it is a piece of cloth. That this piece of cloth, of course, the mandilion has a history. This history is connected with a king named Avgaros. And this history says that Avgaros knew about Jesus, he admired and believed in him without seeing him, and he wanted really much a depiction because, of course, Jesus Christ helped for a miraculous event in his life and wanted his depiction. So he sends someone, he comes from Edessa was his city, his town. He sends someone, a servant, to take the picture, to make the picture of Christ. So he's going to Christ and he's talking with him. I want to do this. Of course, Christ says to him, because at first there was an invitation of Avgaros, please, if you can come. And Jesus said, I'm sorry, I have to follow a certain path. I cannot go away from this path, but you can stay and try. Of course, the servant was following, but unfortunately, with all the efforts he was making, he couldn't depict his face. So after Christ seeing his effort and how he struggled doing this thing, he said, don't worry, give me, I will wash my face and bring me this towel. And he wiped his face and the towel remained on this piece of cloth. I want to tell you that historically, this piece of cloth went to Edessa, and on the wall that it was placed, underneath it was, it made the same impression on the wall too. And this history is being witnessed from many historians at the 10th century, 9th century, that they say we went to Edessa and see this thing, blah, blah, blah. I will not go inside the details. I will only say that, of course, this cloth is missing after the Crusades. All these kind of relics, we never know where they ended up. But we still have this history remaining as a tradition, as a myth, as a legend. But there is a meaning inside legends. Why these legends exist? This legend has a core, and the core is that Christ had the intention of leaving an icon of him. And this is really important because for now it's something that we have for granted, painting icons and displaying them on churches. But back then, and I mean back then by the 8th or 9th century, this was not so easy. Because we have a very important historical point that it is iconoclasm. Iconoclasm wasn't just an argument, I like icons or I don't like icons. It came as a result of the exaggeration of the faithful persons towards objects, material objects. And unfortunately, even though we are not being threatened from an iconoclastic emperor, sometimes in our time we are becoming these people of the 8th century that exaggerated in the materialistic part of these objects, paintings, icons, relics, candles, I don't know, you name it. Sometimes, again, we are becoming slaves of the materiality of this thing, losing the meaning and the essence of these objects. At the time, of course, as you all know, the result of iconoclasm was the triumph and the winning of icons. And this was a very, very big triumph because in a way it recognized our need for symbols, it recognized our need for icons, and icons not abstract, not something vague, but something really, really personal, something really, really specific. This really, really specific thing, of course, it is the main subject of iconography, and it is the face of Christ. I put these icons the one beside the other because they have this meaning. We are starting from the catacombs, and we see how God is being depicted, how Christ is being depicted. Going to Sinai at the 6th century, again, how Christ is being depicted. Going then to 11th century, and we have, of course, mosaic, going to the 14th century from Mount Athos, Panselinos, going to the 16th century that we have Theophanes, one very, very important personality, and going, of course, to Rublev in Russia. So what happened? Okay, we are depicting our God. We triumphed in this disagreement. But what we are depicting exactly? Are we depicting a face we know? Yes, we know the face, and the face existed as a historical personality on this earth, as a material entity. He dressed himself, God dressed himself. The humanity took the materiality and had a face and a body. This face and body, very recently, I don't remember when, they made a reconstruction through anatomy and forensics and knowledge of the territory where Christ lived, and they came up with a picture, some kind of a 3D image. And I want to tell you, it is a very dark man with dark hair and a beard and some characteristics that don't look like the icon we have for Christ. But is important to have an exact icon of Christ. In iconography, we are following prototypes, but our prototypes are not agreeing exactly. And they are not agreeing because they have something important changing them. You know what is changing these prototypes? It's us. We change the face of the icon of Christ. Why we are doing this? We are doing this because this is what he wanted from us. He wanted to give our personal element inside the relation and the creative activity of making him. When Christ is calling us, he doesn't call us as observers. He doesn't call us like something, I am standing far away from you and you are just looking at this mighty God. He gave us the most important and most valuable gift, which of course is free will. With this free will, we decide. We are judging and we are choosing. We are choosing what we believe is beautiful. We are changing what we believe that it causes us certain emotions. We change the forms. This is a personal relation that it's a very, very basic component, not just for the artistic production of iconography or any other liturgical art, but this is the basic component inside our relationship with God. He wants to be connected with us individually, and after that, become a communion. And how we can see this by iconography? First of all, because we have an agreement. And we keep this agreement inside time, even if we are putting the different elements of our time inside this activity. We can recognize the first centuries. We can recognize the passing of the time. Inside it, there is the spirit. At the 14th century, we had a Renaissance. It was the Paleologian Renaissance. It is, of course, obvious. You see the brightness of the color, the intensity of the look. It's so different because exactly it is the spirit of the time. But yet again, even though they are so different in everything, still we can say it is the same. It is Christ. And I want to come to something really, really very dear and loving for me. I had this experience two years ago, and when I am thinking and I'm emotional a little bit, because when I went to this church, I didn't know about Father Arsenie Boca. I learned about him at this church. At this church that I can tell you is a church that has his character. A humble, small building that hides the apocalypse. Because you are entering, and you are entering an apocalyptic place, a place of light, a place of the future, that it is existing now. It has all the mentality of the Orthodox, not Orthodox, of the Christianity, and the essence of the personal relation of a man trying to depict God, and not just God, but all the aspects of iconography inside a small place. I want to tell you that iconography wants to do, when we make an iconographic program inside the temple, we must have in mind that we must serve three purposes. Iconography must be a historical witness, it must be a dogmatical revelation, it must be a liturgic art. It must have everything. It must tell the story, it must tell the dogma, it must help us with our everyday liturgic life. When these components are being served, and when we have this kind of composition, and here Christ is not the traditional Christ that we see in the pictures before, but he is. He cannot be no one else. And not only he is, but he makes a very loud witnessing of his time. And not only of his time, because I truly believe that this spot is going to be a very, very important research point for the future. And they are going to discover and go deep inside the symbolism of the place in the future that for now we cannot even comprehend. So, going very, very slowly to the end of this presentation, I want to say that, of course, all of the arts are inside the tradition of the church, of the liturgical tradition. We have, of course, iconography and architecture, as we see on the temples and on the icons, on the mural paintings. We have sculpture that, of course, we made a very, very conscious choice at the Orthodox tradition not to have three-dimensional sculptures. We are a little bit different from the Eastern tradition, that they prefer, you see the Virgin Mary and Christ. One of the most famous, for example, sculpture is the Pietà, that the Virgin Mary holds the dead body of Christ. So we made a different choice, because we didn't want to be so attached with the materiality of the human body, but we didn't want to leave aside the art of sculpture. We preferred the two-dimensional sculpture, and we kept it to very, very specific points inside the temple. We have it at the iconostasy, we have it at, oh my God, it is the Archbishop throne, of course, and the place, forgive me, I don't know the term, the place that we are doing the preaching, of Ima. Of course, we have music and poetry, and this icon, in a way, I put this icon beside music and poetry because I don't know if someone of you can recognize which picture it is. Which picture is? She is, in a way, the sitting figure in the center. She is an Odigitria, but because she's surrounded by the scenery, and if we make a counting, I will help you. If we make a counting, we have 24 scenes. Did I help you a little bit? It is the akathistos hymnos. It is, in a way, this icon. At the same time, it is poetry and it is music at the same time. One moment. Do we have a volume? Maybe it's not correct. Okay, it doesn't matter. I had a small part from Agni Parthene Despina. I know, I love it too. And this is why I had it. I had it because I wanted to put it for a while. I don't know if we can hear it. It's open, right? Do we have an internet connection here?
Small.
It will slow us down. Maybe I have a quicker one. Perfect. Sorry for the delay. Oh my God, it's so slow.
Yeah, it's very slow.
Yes. Let me see if I can do something. Perfect. I don't. I will leave it for a while, playing in the back. But I wanted to show you something. As soon as music connected with an experience we are sharing, with all the things we are telling until now, for God, for Christianity, for meanings, for symbols, we entered inside an experience. And this experience needed these symbols, these means, this help to intensify, to make even stronger and more powerful what we wanted to do. Can you imagine having, of course you all have maybe the experience of being inside the church and the lighting and the scent, the smells of the incense and all the pictures and the saint looking at us, listening this music inside a place that it is becoming an ark. It becomes a place outside our place. It becomes, in a way, a point outside of this world. This is the purpose of liturgical arts. This is why they are in the service. They are helping. In a way, I don't want, and in the beginning I was thinking this title, service. Someone is giving the service as a servant. but to be as a slave. But in this case, it's not about a slave or a servant. If we can say that arts were personalities and they had characteristics, they are donating their characteristics to help inside this mystery, which is the mystery, the ultimate mystery of surpassing our materiality and trying to reach God. Because, and this is the most important, religion is a choice. We can choose to believe or not to believe. And in our times, we can choose what to believe. In each case, what we are believing, either we understand it or not, our belief and our faith, it becomes who we are in everyday life. For example, if my God says, "Don't worry, my child, if you put explosives around your waist and kill yourself and 200 more people with you, you are going to unite, connect with me, become a saint, and you are going to save 200 people." I know it sounds extreme, but someone taking the decision of taking his own life, and he is doing it as a religious act, we cannot comprehend it because we don't have the same criteria. But for him, it is the ultimate spiritual movement to unite with his God. But because he is choosing a certain box, a certain system, a certain, I will say, a way of expression of deity, it finds the logic to his action. If we go inside what is the essence of every religion, we will see that they are the important points of how persons are. How are the Buddhists? How are the Taoists? How are the Jews? How are the Christians? Truly, how are the Christians? If we wanted to replace, and I say this many times because I truly believe it is the most powerful message of Christianity. If we wanted to replace the name, the word, God of our God, what will be the word we will choose to put instead? Humbleness. Humbleness is a way of reaching somewhere. It is inside the effort, but we cannot say that God is humbleness. Exactly. If we choose to put another word for our God, we will say that He is love. Because this was His only advice to us in the New Testament. He didn't give rules. He gave only one rule. And the rule was love one another. And if you don't know the way, because this is a problem, sometimes we have an image of what love is. If you don't know the way, because your love, sometimes you're cutting your love as you wanted, love one another as I love my Father and my Father loves me. And now we are going again inside symbolism and mystery and deep theological meanings like, okay, so how the Son loves the Father and how the Father loves the Son. But if someone knows a very simple thing, which is the relation of the Trinity, 3 and 1 at the same time, so simple. So in a way, he says, love one another in this kind of relation, in the relation of the Trinity. Oh my God. I always believed that, and still believe that, there wasn't and it's not going to be a greater rebel in this earth than Christ. Because 2090 years after his coming there, even though if we have went to the edge of the universe, even though if we understand for ourselves so many things that we understood at the beginning of his coming here, still we cannot follow the simple advice of him. Still, many times the materiality of humanity is speaking above of this advice. And still we have the need of the symbols, of the arts, of any help that we have on our hands to try to reach this mystery. Thank you. I am sorry to tire you, if I tired you. I don't know if someone wants to make a question or ask something. You know what they say, if no one wants to ask something, either they didn't understand nothing or you explained everything very well. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
So you mentioned differences between different religious aspects of the human. How about atheists? What can you say about atheists? It's very, contemporary.
I will say first in a way, I will say the Christianic part of my opinion. When we are making a liturgy inside the church and we are praying at many times inside the course of the liturgy, we are praying for everybody. And we are praying for the faithful and for the unfaithful. We are praying for everybody that exists in this earth, existed in the past, and the ones that are coming in the future. I want to say that, unfortunately, in our era, in our time, we are living a big effort of the despiritualization of humans. We are so attached to the materiality of things, and sometimes I am feeling pity. I am feeling pity because we are counting things that cannot be counted by a meter of us. We are coming on this earth, and if we are lucky, we are living, they say the average age is 75, something like they say. I don't know if it has gone more than 75, but we are judging something that is above us, and in a way that we are not learning from the history that has been delivered to us. So, for example, yes, of course, we are questioning. For me, sometimes this is really good, because the people that are atheists, they are putting a question. It is a question that they give an answer. It's their choice, and they are doing right. They are free to do. It's nice to be multicolored, to have all these different aspects and different opinions. But sometimes I believe that leads to a dead end. It leads to nothing. In a way, I cannot accept that we are made unique, and we are made unique to exist for 75 years and stop existing for 75 after the 75 years to serve a purpose of what? Of growing and destroying Earth, moving, working, researching, I don't know, giving something to the future, leaving something for the past. But all these achievements are not coming from the material part of human. They are coming from his mentality, from his spirit, from his thoughts, from his ideas, from his dreams, from his will, from his desires. And sometimes I have read about this. I have read about the feeling of love. They said that it's a chemical connection that is being created in a certain part of the brain, and it's only this chemical reaction that creates us this feeling of love. I said, okay, this is the scientific way of trying to understand how the mechanism of the human being is working. But what is the impact and the life of this love? Sometimes we have a grandfather and a grandmother or a great-grandmother that we met him and been with him only maybe for 10 years. And his memory, and for us Christians, memory is something really, really important. And this memory it's something inside, okay, another chemical reaction in our brain. This memory is so strong that we are still talking with our grandmother, still having the feeling of the existence of our grandmother, still having in our hearts her advices and everything. And it's this feeling we have becomes the impact and the influence in our life. So an energy that ceased existing still influences another energy. So you can imagine, going back to Christianity, if we say that we do reality, love one another, what will be the influence and the impact of this energy inside this community? I say that we must respect. This is how I want to close. We must respect what are the desires of others. This is the commandment of Christ. He said, he didn't say, go and make everybody Christian. He said, go and talk about me. And especially in the letters of Paul, Paul says, okay, you will go and speak inside the cities in the name of Christ. You will speak once, and they will not believe. Okay, go and move forward, and you will learn that after that they are still unfaithful. Go again to the city because maybe you did a mistake with what you preached, what you said, you didn't influence these people. Do this movement a second time, but if they choose not to believe, you are moving forward, not letting them, not just letting them, but respecting their choice. Unfortunately, if we have learned this respect for one another in this earth, there will not be worse, I believe. We have a lot of work as a humanity still to do. Someone else? Okay. Oh, no. I want to say that we are forming a system in our minds, a system of life. This system, again, I want to remain a little bit at this point. We are making choices. We are making decisions. When we are making a decision what to believe, we must not be hypocrites. Because many times we are choosing to believe in something, but we are choosing to believe in the surface. To wear a cross and light a candle on Sunday, and this is my Christian duty. What we believe is not a duty. And to be a rebel, it doesn't need nothing. It doesn't need candles, it doesn't need churches, it doesn't need pictures, it doesn't need nothing of these things. Because, as God said, if a small group of people gather on my name, so you have a community, you have a core of me. So it's about our intention. It's about our desire, how sincere we want to be with what we believe. He said what he is. He said, I am life. I am life. Life, the most important component of life, is change. I am waiting many changes inside the course of history of the Christian church anyway, but also of humanity, exactly because we are alive and we are going to be alive. We are not going to be alive as personalities. We existed as entities, unique. But this course, it's not only one person's course. We are giving everything as an inheritance. And this is something we need to think. What is the inheritance we are living towards one another? Not great and important and I don't know what. What is the example we give? First of all, if some of you, I am a mother too, first of all, as an example to our children. I have a daughter and a son, and what I'm thinking is that the biggest change I can do in this world, spiritually, mentally, even materialistically if you want, is to leave these two persons on this earth with a certain mentality. with a mentality of love, of respect, of connecting, of brotherhood.
I want to say that even though you are from a different religion, in the end, if you have the right mentality and you try to look for the right answers, you will come to find the same God. I mean, even though you're believing in the Buddhist mentality or the Christianity, if you have the right mentality and look for the, I mean, don't really look for something, just approfundate things in your mind and think like it is intended to think. I think the Bible is more of a code to orientate after, not something per se to take everything for good. So that's just, we make the world better for each other because we think like that, and that's just, I don't know, some guidebook.
You are right, because there was a discussion with a friend at some time in Florence, in a hill near Belvedere. I don't know if you remember this conversation. We had this conversation and we were saying that, okay, someone is not a Christian or he isn't nothing, I don't know what, he's a Catholic, he's a person anyway that he believes in this energy, this higher energy, this God of him, and he's living in a life of respect, of love, of taking care, of forgiveness, of sharing, of everything. And he doesn't know that this God has the name Christ. What happens with this person? This person for sure is much closer than a person. He says he believes in Christ, in Buddha, in I don't know what, but this person is closer because he is doing his life and experience this relation he has with God. This is the essence. Because as we said before, and I will go back again to symbols, everything is a symbol. Our language, the way we are communicating, it is symbols. This is why what we call the letters, right? They are symbols. They are helps. They were things that are helping us towards something. But the essence is deeper and more above of the symbols. And this is what we need to look, even to each other. We must not see the other and say, he's tall, he's fat, he's this, he's yellow, he's red, he's Christian, he's, I don't know. We must see each other and find the essence of this human. How is our relation? Our relation, and together as a community, as a communion, not only as a community, but as a communion, how our relation is also with God. No one? Again, thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's conference. I'm really, really glad for being here. This is a very special place for me. And I really hope I can see you sometime again in the future. Thank you.